Welcome to Smart Women Talk. This is your host, Katana Abbott. I'm a midlife millionaire coach and a certified financial planner, and I search the world for smart women and a few good men, including best-selling authors and thought leaders who are on that leading edge. So join us for conversations on money, business, health, and inspiration so you can live with more purpose, passion, and prosperity. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smart Women Talk. This is your host, Katana Abbott, and we are still celebrating International Women's Month. And today, I will be speaking with author and leadership consultant, Dr. Erin Reeves. We're going to be talking about how to identify and release the things that are draining our energy. I also want to share with you this idea of burnout and the misunderstood stress gap between women and men in the workplace, and why we often are prescribed stress release strategies for women, what we call self-care, and why quite often it even causes more stress. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest today, a leading researcher, author, and advisor in the fields of leadership and inclusion. Dr. Erin Reeves studied business at DePaul University's College of Commerce, attended law school at the University of Southern California, and received her PhD in sociology from Northwestern University. Erin is a best-selling author of 4 books: In Charge, that's her latest one, Smarter Than a Lie, One Size Never Fits All, and The Next IQ. Erin has designed and led several comprehensive research projects on leadership and inclusion in various topics related to diversity, inclusion, and equity. Before Nextions, Erin practiced law for several years and served as an adjunct professor at Northwestern University, where she taught classes on law and society. So, Erin, I am so excited to have you here today to talk about this idea of how women, why we're so stressed and how we can overcome this stress. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Katana. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah. So first, I just want to ask, how in the world did you publish 4 books in such a short period of time? And what inspired you to do that?
Well, I'm a public speaker, so I do a lot of public speaking, but I really don't like it. I am a pretty severe introvert, and so writing books is actually my happy place. But we live in a world where people don't read books. They like to hear about what's in the books. And so that's where the public speaking comes in. But when a topic interests me and I do research on it, the ability to just really sit with an idea for a long time and explore multiple facets of it is what really inspires me to write.
And I love the fact that you're a researcher. Yeah. I have a cousin down at University of Alabama, and she's a professor of anthropology, and she's all about research. And I see you got your PhD in sociology.
Exactly. Anthropology and sociology are actually very closely connected. And the research is really about why we do what we do, right? And so once you start talking about pressures that women face or barriers that they face or what they need to do to be successful, we're really talking about navigating social dynamics. And anthropology is like historical social dynamics, and sociology is more contemporary social dynamics. There's not a lot of people who do DEI work that approach it from a research perspective. So I'm really interested in what is that gap? Like, what are people not doing that they need to do to be more inclusive, right? It's a little different than saying, let's just keep training people to care about this. I think a lot of people care about it. They just don't know what to do. So if you don't get really behavioral with people, you kind of just keep preaching at them and eventually they tune you out.
So let's talk about this whole idea of women just overgiving. You addressed it in this new book, In Charge. And I want to let the women know, and just all of our listeners, we have a lot of men listeners too. In Charge, the energy management guide for badass women who are tired of being tired.
Yes.
So I think, from looking at your book, this topic says it all. We are tired of being tired. And you said when we first met today to do this show that this is a really big topic right now. Can we start there and what's going on and why is it such a big topic?
Absolutely. I also want to start with a note for the men who are listening, because I actually started off this book with that. It wasn't a book for women. It was a book for men and women, because I coach men and women. And the book has a lot of stories of the people I've coached over the years. But I did find that men's exhaustion looked and felt very different than women's exhaustion. And there were so many similarities between women in the ways in which they were exhausted, with compassion fatigue being one of them, energy management being one of them, that it pushed me into saying, okay, I want to go deeper into the issue with energy management for women. So I had a really good friend a couple of weeks ago who called me and said, don't tell anybody. This is a gentleman friend. And he said, don't tell anybody, but I actually read your book and I know it's for women, but I got a lot out of it, but don't tell anyone I read it. And I was like, it's not for men, but it mostly has stories of women. So to your point about energy management, we live in a society where women are asked to do more heavy lifting with emotional management of other people, right? And this isn't just parenting. This is if you're a sibling, if you are, I mean, there's stories in the book about one sister, four brothers, death of a parent, and everybody calls the sister, like, can you arrange the funeral, right? While she's grieving too. So teachers, saying how male teachers would come in and say, hey, I've got a kid who's having a hard time. Can you go talk to them, to the female teacher? Or, men in corporations saying, hey, this person seems to be having a hard time. Can you mentor them? So this idea that women aren't just supposed to be good at what they do, right? Like the job that you have, whatever your job is, but you're supposed to be managing the emotions of everybody around you, leads to a type of exhaustion, which is very different than men. Now, there are men who are extremely compassionate who sometimes get put into this position. And yes, this research can apply to them too. But as a researcher, when I saw such big contingencies, right, of women saying one thing and men saying another thing, is there crossover? Sure. Are there women that nobody would trust with their emotions? Of course, right? Like, are there men that you would trust implicitly with your emotions? Yes. But it was like more often than not, it was happening to women versus men.
Mm. So let's talk about this, because, women that are in the workplace that, if they're single, that's different. But if they're in a relationship, especially if there's children, so often they end up with all those other responsibilities. I mean, I've got a friend, she runs her business and she also takes care of everything, the bill pay, the grocery shopping, planning out the meals. And quite often she does the cooking. And she did get her husband to take over like the kids' activities, thank goodness. But she just, and I know so many women like this, and it's almost like they cut the grass too.
Yes.
Is it a control thing, or do you think they're just not getting the support, or is it different in every situation?
I mean, I think there are differences, but I do think that what it comes down to is social expectations, right? When women are exhausted, they're not saying, I am really tired and I want to do all this stuff anyway, right? What they're saying is, I'm really tired. And when I try to stop doing this stuff, the pushback that I get isn't worth me dealing with, right? So one of the things I talk about in the book is about women setting boundaries. There is so much written about women need to learn to say no. Women need to learn how to set boundaries. The truth is, women are phenomenal at setting boundaries. If you've ever seen a mom with a toddler, like women are amazing at setting boundaries, right? The problem isn't women saying no or setting boundaries. It's in every aspect of our lives, our physical bodies, our emotions, our time. People are not good at respecting our boundaries, right? So when you set a boundary and somebody violates it, you have to make a decision about how much energy will you expend defending your boundary? And is it less energy to not defend it and just do whatever it is that you didn't want to be doing to begin with because it's just easier? Or do you want to take a stance? And that's where, it's little stuff like, can you please call them? And you're like, it's not my job. And they're like, can you please call them anyway? To don't touch me. And people, I have, one example of a workplace, like sexual harassment, borderlining on assault situation as well. So women know how to say no. right? But if people don't listen, then you have to undertake the expense, the cost of defending your boundary. And a lot of times it's not worth it because, as you said, defending your
boundary. If you're not getting the support. So that's the other thing. Yeah. So you say, okay, well, I'm going to delegate and have the kids do this stuff, but you're not getting the support either. It's so important for that team, in a relationship, if someone does have a relationship, to have that support with having the boundaries as a team. And I know that can be a big issue because my husband and I used to always be like this at each other. And it's because I do something on money personalities, which I'd love to share with you because of your background. But, there's 5 of them. We're all different and it shows up in all areas of our life. And it was because he was security and I was recognition that we fought about things and the kids would use it against us. And it was finally when we sat down and did the work to understand each other that we were so different, but we were perfect for each other. And then when we became a team, it was like the kids could not understand why they couldn't get their way anymore. We explained it to them and they didn't like it, but it was very healing for the whole family. But you're right, that was a lot of work. And how do working people have a chance to even go that deep and figure these kind of things out?
Absolutely. I mean, and it's when you have to do that at work too, right? Like I have a story in the book about a woman that I was coaching. She was a tenured faculty member. In tenured faculty meetings, people kept asking her to take notes, right? And she didn't want to be like, no, because it literally was like, it didn't occur to anybody else to take notes. People literally were like, oh, so we just won't have notes. And I told her, I said, just sit there and hold strong. Just that I'm not taking notes. If you want notes, you'll figure it out. And then when she did that, the one of the members was like, oh, I guess I could have my executive assistant come and take notes. Right. But the amount of energy that it took for her to be like, no, I'm not taking notes anymore. Stop asking me to take notes. That's the energy expenditure that people don't want. They're calculating, right? Like every decision that women make is a calculation. I was walking down the street the other day with a friend of mine, and somebody was catcalling us, right? And I looked at her and I was like, I just want to say like a whole bunch of rude stuff, right? And then I was like, yeah, but what's the potential cost of that? It could be dangerous. The person could come down. We could actually put ourselves in physical danger. So here are 2 women that had nothing to do with the situation, who had to walk past, but who had to expend the energy of absorbing this, what felt like a verbal and physical threat, right? And so we just started walking really fast, but it interrupted our conversation. It interrupted, like both of our pulses were racing. That's the energy expenditure that when women really sit back and say, what are all the ways in which I spend energy? And that explains why you're tired. And it explains why it's a kind of tired that doesn't get better with a nap or even 8 hours of sleep. Like the number of women I coach who tell me like, my doctor said, get more sleep. She said, I've slept for 8 hours. I wake up in the morning just as tired, because when you're operating in an energy deficiency of every day, like expending more energy than you're getting in, then it doesn't really matter if you get 8 hours of sleep because you're still operating at an energy deficiency.
So in your book, you call that burnout. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And it's a negative stress and almost like it's almost like chronic pain, because I've had knee replacement and I have like scoliosis in my back. And so you start living with it, right? And then you get used to this, but it sucks the soul out of your life.
Well,
when I got the 2 knees done, it was like, oh my gosh, it's like you're reborn. So, I'd love you to compare that in real life. Like, so that was a physical thing. And so that was something I had to take care of, and it was life-changing. But let's talk about this burnout and like some of the symptoms perhaps that women have, and then how would they notice it and get through that to shift it?
Well, I think the first part is when you really start acknowledging that everything that you do and feel is an energy expenditure, right? Like every thought you have. So for example, if you walk past a hamper of laundry and your brain says, "Ugh, I got to do that laundry," but you walk right past it and you don't do it. Well, you just expended some energy saying you need to do it. Like that was just, so it's better if that thing is in the closet where you don't see it, because you're not going, every time you walk past it, you're like using up a little energy thinking about the fact that you need to do it. So being in chronic pain does that. Being consistently unheard and unvalued at work does that. Mm-hmm. Dealing with an idiot boss, right, who takes credit for all of your ideas does that. Getting home and no matter how tired you are, everybody looking at you like, what are we going to eat? Mm-hmm. Does that. And you just want to be like, are you going to starve? Like, if I don't cook, like, figure it out. Right. So once you acknowledge that energy expenditure is happening all the time, then what you can also start recognizing is so is energy gain. Right? There's things that you do that give you energy, like favorite songs that you listen to, right? Or talking to your favorite people. Or some people might find that they gain energy by listening to this podcast because they really connect with how women are talking about women's issues. If you are a runner, you may actually have more energy after you take a run, even though you expended physical energy, you actually have more energy because your body's kind of buzzing from it. So if you start thinking about energy as what are you putting in every day, what is going out, if you're at like a zero, right, at the end of the day, then taking a nap, going to sleep is great because you recharge, and it's like your phone, right? You wake up with 100% battery and you discharge all day. Now you may need to recharge throughout the day so that you have it all day. But if you are ending the day negative, you borrowed from the future, right? Like you're literally like, I don't have any energy, but I'm going to finish these last 3 emails, or I don't have any energy, but I'm going to finish this thing. When you do that, what happens is even if the rest replenishes you, you're still starting with a negative because you used up stuff you don't even have. And when you do that multiple days and weeks in a row, you really do, that's burnout, right? Exhaustion and fatigue are rechargeable. Burnout means you have to stop everything that you're doing. And you have to take a long enough pause from what you're doing where you need to catch up on the deficit and then recharge, right? Now, I use the example of like a canoe. Let's say that you get in a canoe and your job or your goal is to row out into the middle of the lake. It's very hard. And every time you row out into the middle of the lake, you get exhausted, right? And you come back and you're tired. Like rowing out into the middle of the lake and coming back is exhausting. But imagine if your canoe has holes in it. Not only are you trying to row out into the middle, which is hard, but you're trying to like empty out the water that's coming in it too. So when you come back from emptying out the water and being tired, imagine if somebody says, "Oh, Erin, it's about self-care. You should really get a massage," right? You really want to clock them in the face because you're like, that is not helpful, because even if I get a massage tomorrow, I need to be clearing the water from here too, not just rowing, which is, you can think about that as the job or the duty or the responsibility. It's this additional stuff that you have to deal with. So in our workplaces, in our homes, we don't mind doing the responsibility of rowing out to where we're supposed to go and coming back. But it's these holes that we have to plug while we're doing it, right? That's what
it would be really nice to have people at the end cheering for us.
Right. Or even people who are like, let me fix that hole for you, right?
Oh, yeah. And someone fixing it and someone cheering you and bringing you a sandwich.
Right. Like March 14th, for example, is Equal Pay Day for women. And so one of the holes is we get paid less than men to do the same stuff and to do it better. We're doing more and we get paid less, right? Well, that's after a while, right? That really adds up. That compounds. And pretty soon, that's one of the holes where you are very aware of the fact that the guy in the canoe next to you all he has to do is row out there and come back. He doesn't have to be plugging holes while he does it. And so, of course, when he gets back, he's not as tired as you are. And he's like, oh, you know what? You should be more present. You should really like do business development. And you're like, you should really go to hell, right? Like because that anger is like, it's easy for you to say that because that looks like the same journey, but it's not. Like we had completely different journeys going there and coming back. And I am exhausted. And please don't tell me what else I'm supposed to do right now because I'm too tired to listen to that because you're not interested in, for example, think about when women had to fight for maternity leave, right? When women had to fight for, can you not have me pumping in the bathroom? So those fights, women had to go into the bathroom to pump milk for their babies. And that's a hole in the canoe, and when there's a really nice, like maternal pod where a woman can go do it, that hole is filled. So some of these systemic things we need to fill these holes. Otherwise, we're just asking women to work way too hard to do the same stuff that men are doing.
So what are you saying would be some solutions? I think the first thing you're saying is to identify those. That would be a really interesting exercise.
Yes.
But how would someone I bet a lot of women, myself included, may not even be aware of what the true
absolutely just literally pay attention to what do you expend energy on every day, right? I wasn't joking. I actually talk in the book. I have a very dysfunctional relationship with laundry, like really bad. Really, I will wash dishes. I will vacuum, but I hate laundry. And I realized like my dirty clothes always need to be out of my line of vision. Right. Because whenever I see it, I get angry that I have to do laundry. Like the clothes get dirty and they need to be cleaned. I don't know what it is, but so that's such a simple little thing. Or if I see a latch on a door and I think, I need to screw that in, right? Do it right then and there because you just spent energy thinking about doing it. Every time you pass it, you're going to spend energy thinking about doing it. Just do it. Then you don't think about it anymore. So there's a lot of ways in which you can say like, how is energy kind of flowing out of me? That's one thing. The second thing is the best way to start a self-care journey. And I don't like the term self-care, but the best way to start a self-care journey is to start by saying, what can I stop doing? Don't add stuff. Don't add like getting massages and doing yoga. And I need to do this. And I need, someone texted me the other day and they said, do you think satin pillowcases will help me get better rest? And I was like, no, your kids doing the dishes that they put into the kitchen will help you get better rest because they're taking some of the responsibility that teenagers need to be taking. So it's this, we are inundated with these articles about like, you should take magnesium and you should do this and you should do that. Hey, if that stuff works for you, do it. But all of those are just helping you get out of the canoe and feel a little bit better. They're not plugging the holes, right? When you stop doing things that have no benefit to you, but expend energy on a daily basis, that's what's plugging the hole. You want to get to a point where your journey out into the middle of the lake and back is only about rowing there and coming back. And when you just do that, your muscles are going to hurt. Sure, it's an arduous row. That's when a massage helps, right? That's when getting rest helps. But it doesn't help when you have so many holes, literally draining energy out.
So one of the things we had mentioned we would talk about is this idea of time management and energy management. For years, I've taught something called the Perfect Life Time System or the Midlife Millionaire Time System. And I have followed this, Erin, for 30 years, I would say. That's been a solution for me, but I have to have organization. And I have, like, if I'm searching for files all the time, because I don't like to file, right? But taking and getting everything organized so I don't have that stress. So, that's something I've done in my life. That's something I teach. And it's just one thing though. And I'm sure you have so many more things, but this idea of the energy, and time.
What you're talking about isn't time management, right? It's actually energy management because like when you're saying it takes too much energy to do all of those things all day, every day, right? So energy management is about, I think of energy as like a renewable fuel, right? You expend it, you get it back. You expend it, you get it back. And over the course of the day, your energy level is like this, right? You can like drop it for some reason and then you get it back, you drop it. It could be because physically you get exhausted or you're hungry and you eat and then you go back up. It could be because emotionally somebody upsets you and then, you find a way to shake it off, or you journal and then you get it. So energy goes like this. Time just goes like this, right? You wake up in the morning, you have 12 hours or whatever you've designed for that day. And with each hour, you have less and less of it. And then you're done with it. Like you can't recreate time, but you can actually revive your energy. And that's really what resilience is. And so what happens is you can say, well, like for me, one of the things that I do is I don't answer my phone, right? Like everything for me is scheduled because I have ADHD. So if I answer a phone, I'm gone. Like I don't know what conversation rabbit hole I'm going to go down. Like I need real structure. But what it does is it helps me say, okay, I need to do this. 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 And my energy level stays consistent because I'm not doing things in a way that drain my energy. If there is a conversation that I really need to have with somebody, I don't put it off. Because when we put off having a conversation, we're actually spending a lot of energy not having the conversation, right? Like we're just ruminating on it. So the minute something occurs to me where I'm like, oh, I need to have a tough conversation with someone, I will immediately say, let's do this right now, because I don't need to sit around and think about it, because it's an ineffective use of energy, because thinking about it isn't going to do anything. I need to have this conversation. So the sooner I have it, the less energy I'm going to, spend doing it. And I think part of this is because we're asked to do so much emotional management and we're asked to do so much like compassion management, we have to be careful about what those boundaries are, right? So if you say, well, I'm done at 4, if somebody calls at 4:30, what is your answer? Like really having that solid answer that you say, this is a non-negotiable for me, or this one isn't non-negotiable for me. So it's that.
Or have a really good option. Like my husband goes and plays a concert on Thursday night. So that's my evening where I will do a evening appointment, and I love doing that. So, but it's not open. No, I have to book it.
Exactly. And so the idea of energy management is you're in control, and productivity does not have to mean exhaustion. I work a lot of hours because I like working. I really like the work that I do. When people say, oh, you need to get more rest, I'm like, actually, I get a lot of energy from working, right? But there's certain things I do at work, which I don't get energy from, right? Like everyone has like 30% of your job that you really don't want to do. So I'm better at scheduling those things, but it does give me pleasure to like sit down with a topic sometimes and say, how do I want to present it to this group to really make sure that they're impacted by it? And I like thinking about that. And so that gives me energy. So everyone is different, right? For me, like walks are highly energetic. For somebody else, yoga might be highly energetic. For someone else, sleeping might be highly energetic, right? So this isn't about, here's a list of things you should always do. It's really pay attention to when is your energy level high? Like, who do you talk to that makes you feel like, hey, I'm ready to go. Like I have all this energy. And who do you talk to where you're like, oh my God, I need a nap from just like a 20-minute conversation with them, right? So once you start paying attention to that, you start saying, okay, I'm going to schedule my day in a way where if I hit an energy low, I know like what song I want to play for myself, or I know, like I love going for a drive, right? I live in Chicago. So there's times to walk, and like today, it's very cold. I will drive, but I love driving down Lakeshore Drive because the lake is on one side. It's just gorgeous. Well, a 10-minute drive revives me. And so if I feel my energy level low, if I sit there and say, no, finish this right now, I'm just more energy is draining, more energy is draining, more energy is draining, and I'm going to crash. That's what burnout is, right? But instead, if I say, even if I get less done, if I take this 10-minute drive, I'm going to have a better rest of the day.
Right.
And I get in the car, I play a song that I really love, and I go, up Lakeshore Drive, come right back. It's like literally like 10 to 15-minute drive. I look at the lake. I just feel gratitude that I live that close to the lake. I feel gratitude for Prince or Beyonce or whoever is like singing and helping me feel better in the car. And then I come back and I'm like, all right, let's look at this again. Let's look at this spreadsheet, or let's look at this document, or let's look at this email. And I'm now approaching it from a perspective of having energy. But without that 15-minute break, I was approaching it with not having energy. And when you approach something, when you don't have energy, you're going to take so much longer to do it, and you're going to make mistakes.
Right, right.
So it's that, ooh, I don't have anything left. I need to put something in me. And you get really good at it. And once you start doing it on a regular basis, it becomes very instinctive, because all of a sudden you're like, I'm crashing. Why am I crashing? Like, what happened? Where all of a sudden I don't feel good. And I know, just walk away from the computer and I go sit for a second and I'm like, what happened? And then I'm like, oh, that call, that's what it was. All right, I just need to put something back in.
And it's amazing how the other morning I had my journal out and I've got it sitting right here because I'm using it for notes because I just like the size of it right now. And I was writing how I was just so wiped out and, and down. And then like the perfect person called me, and I had this call and everything changed, everything shifted. And I got done and I looked at it and I said, who wrote that?
Yes.
And I was so grateful, So, and I can't remember who it was that I spoke with, but boy, I'm going to think about it because I want to send a thank you note to that person and just thank them for being there.
Yeah. And yesterday, like, I love comedy. I love stand-up comedians, especially when they're like completely irreverent and politically incorrect. And so yesterday morning, I had a very low energy level, and I had 10 minutes and I was like, I'm going to watch the new Chris Rock special for 10 minutes. Right. I was in tears. Like, my eyes were red. So I was like trying to bat away my tears. It was so funny. It was so stupid. It was just so funny. But the 10 minutes, I got on the Zoom, like smiling, right? Like, and I was grinning because I was just and somebody said, what has you? I was like, I just watched 10 minutes of Chris Rock and it was really funny. I'm like, you, like, it's 8:00 in the morning. What are you doing watching Chris Rock? And I was like, because I needed something irreverent and like a little bit scandalous to just remind me that this shit's not that serious, right? Like, I take my work very seriously, but I need some laughter. I need, some, and so you'll instinctively start doing that, right? Or I get off a call sometimes and I immediately like want to get up and do some jumping jacks. Like, and I don't know why, other than my body's now telling me, like, get rid of whatever you just stored in your body. And like, the jumping jacks are going to help. Put on some music, do 20 jumping jacks. And all of a sudden I'm like, what was I doing? What was upsetting me?
Right.
And it's like, that doesn't have that hold on me anymore. And so again, energy management is not about changing a bunch of stuff in your life. There's a lot of stuff in your life you can't change. It's not going anywhere. Irritating people are going to be irritating. They're going to be in your life, right? Some of these dynamics about being woman are not going to change, but you can moderate how you manage your energy around these things. That allows you to have a better day, even if nothing in your day changes.
So to summarize, like kind of the steps with that, the first thing is to actually identify it and make a list.
Yep.
And, maybe make a checklist. These are the things that energize me, and these are the things that drain my energy, and keep it out for a week. So, That's one of those. Okay, I'm going to put it in there. And because I forgot all about that phone call. And then, you did the Chris Rock thing. Let's put those down there. What are the things that really transform that energy and shift and release those negative things? Because boy, if we could just have that checklist and keep it handy where we can see it, oh my gosh. It would Absolutely. Be a game changer because it's free. It's right there. I mean,
you can make it easy for yourself, right? Like I have a Netflix playlist of stand-up comedy already set up. I don't have to go looking for something. I already have like 8 comedians on there. I have a good 8.5, 9 hours of comedy that I watch in like 10-minute increments. So I can just go to Netflix, hit my playlist, hit play. It takes 2 seconds. So sometimes if you know, well, that works, or I've got an FU, playlist on Spotify. Like that's my, like I am, like somebody really irritated me. I need a song that's just really going to like get them out of my head. I go to because when I've heard songs and I'm like, ooh, that's a really good song for that, I put it in the playlist, right? So, and I randomly pick songs on the playlist and I'm like, that was the perfect song. And I'll listen to it and I'll dance a little bit. Or you have that person that you text and you're like, I'm having a bad day. Do you have time? Do you have time to talk for 5 minutes? And so there's part of it is you want to come up with the list, but then tee up that list, make it really easy for you to get to, because if you have a really busy day, your brain is going to be like, we don't have time to go on Netflix and find the comedian and all of that. So just keep working. But if it's already teed up, you're more likely to go do it.
And how about keeping hydrated?
Hydrated is really important, but
because we get so busy, we don't think to drink. And that could be part of our energy drain is we're just dehydrated.
It's dehydration. It's the right nutrition. When you feel physically tired, don't reach for sugar. Mm-hmm. If you I have chlorophyll gummies that I love. They're really good for your immune system, but they also give you a little shot of energy. Green tea is better than a cookie, but pay attention. Like maybe if you eat a cookie and your energy spikes, but then it crashes immediately, is that really the best choice?
Right.
So one of the things we didn't talk about is that there's 3 major types of energy that you're managing: physical, cognitive, and emotional, right? Cognitive is the exhaustion from just thinking. Emotional is that feeling stuff, right? So if you're worried about something, if you're anxious about something, you're expending emotional energy. Well, these 3 go together. So if you run out of physical energy, sometimes if you have cognitive energy, you can motivate yourself to keep going because you can borrow from cognitive energy or emotional energy, right? If you run out of cognitive energy, your body can just push through. But when we're talking about burnout, all 3 are deficient.
Wow.
Right? So you don't have anywhere to get it from. You're tired of thinking, you're tired of feeling stressed out, and your body's exhausted, which is where the hydration comes in, the proper nutrition comes in. And proper nutrition, please don't Google what proper nutrition is, because it is different for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a vegetarian. I have so much more energy when I'm a vegetarian. I'm anemic when I am a vegetarian. If I eat, when I was pregnant, both times I was told to eat fish so that I could get the iron. Even with anemia, I have more energy when I'm vegetarian. And I just had to make the choice. I finally had to tell my doctor, stop telling me to eat stuff, because when I eat fish or chicken, and I barely have ever, eat those, when I eat that, my energy level drops. But that's not true for somebody else. For someone else, they need that steak for their energy level, right? So going back to what you said, it is about you paying attention to you and how are things feeling for you and running for you. If I say, well, being a vegetarian gives me so much energy, all you're hearing is it gives me energy, right? It may not give somebody else energy. Somebody who says, I love shakes in the morning, right? I don't like shakes in the morning. Like, energy management is not about giving yourself some to-do list where you're like, you have to do all of these things in order to be okay. You're saying, body, I'm listening. Mind, I'm listening. Emotions, I'm listening. What do you want? What do you don't want? And navigate it that way.
And I love it because I love that because I wanted you to give a tip at the end. And this sounds like the perfect thing right here is the solution to the burnout is identify the physical, the cognitive, and the emotional stresses in your life. Find out what are the things that are going to bring you the energy. And when all 3 of those are overwhelmed, you end up with burnout.
Yep. And when you have burnout, you can't get out of burnout.
Yeah.
Unless you do a pretty massive reset, right? And a recalibration. So you don't want to get there. And if you're there, and you're like, I'm burning out, I can tell I am. I really need to know one thing to do that will help me with burnout. The one thing you can do is look at your calendar, find stuff to delete.
And do what? Find what?
To delete. Find something to delete from your calendar. That's it. Like, everything on your calendar is not necessary. And so the way that you start, processing burnout is you've got to stop doing things so that you can buy yourself a little bit of room where you can process like cognitive and emotional and all of the stuff. But if you're burned out, you're literally like, I don't have the energy to even think about that. Right.
That's right. Yeah.
You're right. So stop doing something. There's something you're doing you don't have to be doing. It's
delegate, delete, delegate, outsource.
Yep.
So important, because we take all that on, and that can be at work, with family, with friends. And as you say, just to learn to say no.
Yep. And the thing is, just ask yourself, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if I just do this? Right. All right. If the problem is I'll have to deal with it next week, I'll deal with it next week. But like this week, I need some energy back. Right.
Yep.
So you're starting to think in terms of managing it in a way that's really helpful to you.
Well, Erin, it has been such a pleasure to have you here.
My pleasure.
Yeah. I mean, this was refreshing for me.
Good.
And I know our listeners love this. And if it was, if we had a little chat box going, we'd probably have all the yes, yes, yes coming in. So, but thank you so much for being here. So I want to remind everyone, you can go to Erin Reeves, ARINREEVES.com.
Yep.
And you can learn more about Erin, how to connect. And I know you do some coaching and consulting. And she's got 4 books. The latest one on this topic is In Charge, the Energy Management Guide for Badass Women Who Are Tired of Being Tired. So we just learned today so many great tips on how to shift that energy so we can be more productive. And for Women's Empowerment Month, this is perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So everyone, thank you very much for coming to Smart Women Talk. And if you want to join our community, just go to joinsmartwomen.com. And when you do, you'll get on our list, you'll get our newsletter, you'll know who's on the show, you can access the Smart Women Academy. And be sure to like the videos and the shows. And until our next time, go out and live with more purpose, passion, and prosperity. Smart Women Talk is brought to you by Smart Women's Empowerment, a 501c3 nonprofit project of United Charitable. Music by Bill Lucas from his album When It Rains. Available on Apple Music and Spotify. Catch us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to join our free community at joinsmartwomen.com to access all our free Smart Women resources.